I hope everyone has a rich life because I just want that for you. I really want that for women in particular, to feel like their life is theirs, that it is rich and it is purposeful. And I want nothing less actually for them or me.
Welcome to Your Second Act, the podcast that proves that life doesn't have to end at 40, 50, or even 60, because when it comes to living your best life, age is just a number. Hey, gorgeous. Welcome back to another episode of Your Second Act. Money, money, money. It's an interesting word, isn't it? And sometimes I think it's a word that makes a lot of us feel uncomfortable to talk about. Now, if I asked you what a rich life looks like, you would probably say having a lot of money. I get it. I would think that too. But lately, I've been thinking about this a lot because if I'm honest, I don't think I've ever really stopped and asked myself, what does a rich life actually mean to me? And I think for a lot of us, especially in midlife, something really starts to shift. We've spent years building a life, looking after everyone else, doing what needed to be done, being part of your family's bigger plan. But we haven't actually stopped to define what we actually want for ourselves. And that's where it gets interesting, because when it comes to money, I've realized I've often relied on others to look after the bigger financial decisions. And if I'm honest with you, I find that really embarrassing. As a 55-year-old woman, I shouldn't be relying on someone else, i.e. my husband, to make those financial decisions. And even though I'm married, I've just started to see that having my own plan is actually something really powerful. And it's not just having a plan as a couple, it's having one for yourself, because this is the part of empowering ourselves in midlife, not avoiding it because we think, you know what, it's just too hard, but actually sitting down and asking, what is it that I want? Now, today I am joined by Betsy Westcott. She's a financial wellness coach and expert who I have had the pleasure of working with lately. And she helps people live rich lives from the inside out. And it's a really different take on looking at money and what is important. How do we define a rich life? So please stay with me and let's get into my episode with Betsy. Betsy, when you talk about a rich life, it feels like you're talking about something much bigger than money. So I think it's a really interesting topic. What would you say a rich life is actually? What does it mean?
I'll start by how I got here to then land what it all means.
Yeah.
So I came into the world of finance and I was so excited about learning how money works, how to make it, how to keep it, how to grow it, because I thought, great, the more money you have, the more choices you have, the more agency you've got. So, the more you're in charge of your life, which is true, absolutely. But I was just focused on the wrong thing. I was focused on how do I maximize wealth? And what I learned through all my experience as a private banker and advising everyday people through to really wealthy families is that having more money didn't mean you had a higher quality of life. You had more resources, you had more choices, but that didn't solve the problem. And so I was like, okay, well, there's something more going on here. And through more reading, more learning, and more doing, I realized the focus is in the wrong area. The focus is on wealth maximization, not life maximization. I was like, okay, well, how do you do that? How do you live a truly rich life in that holistic sense that feels something like that you're proud of, that gives you meaning, that makes you feel like it was worth it, a life well lived? I look at it in kind of like a wheel with a pie, and it's looking at all these other components of your life. Absolutely. Having really healthy finances is an important component of that. But it's also, do you have physical health? And can you move your body? And can you get it to do what you want to do? Do you have social health in your relationships with your partner, with your family, with your community, with your workplace? Do you have agency and richness in time around how you get to use that? Do you have purpose and, whether that's driven by the kind of work that you do and that gives you meaning, or is it something more spiritual? Do you have health in your mind? Is that a happy place to be inside your head, or is it not? And so whilst I am absolutely a finance professional, what I find has really moved the dial the most when I'm working with clients around their finances is not just looking at how do we make money move? How do we make it grow? But how do we actually use it in what it's really intended to be, which is a tool, the means to the end, and the end being this life that you feel really proud of, that feels truly yours, that feels like it has meaning. And that's what I talk to clients about. So going beyond the numbers to actually, what's it all for?
Yeah. Well, since working with you, you've really opened my mind to that because, we've discussed previously how talking about money, people find that really, really uncomfortable. So I personally thought of it as I've got money, but I want to grow my money. I'd never really thought about what does that actually mean? And I think, especially now in midlife, sitting down and really looking at it, because I would have to say that when it comes to anything to do with finances, I hate it. I just run the other way. And I think a lot of that I've definitely got a block because I feel like I'm not good at it. I'd rather rely on someone else to help me out with it. But then since, working with you, it's really opened my mind to say, well, what is it that you want? And more importantly, yes, of course you want money because money gives you more opportunity, but bringing in that rich life, I think that is such an important thing to ask yourself because I don't think a lot of us really understand it and know how do you define a rich life, and actually sitting down and thinking about what do you want? What is a rich life to you? And this is what I really wanted to open this conversation about because I think there are a lot of women out there who maybe like myself rely on others to work the financial side out and then you just continue on with your life. But I've just really, talking to you and other financial professionals, realized how important it is to actually understand it yourself. And I remember you saying, Michelle, it's not as hard as you think it is. When you look at your life and what you do and how you budget your own family circumstances and everything else that you've done in life. And when you said, well, do you do this? Do you do that? Yes. So then you won't find all of this so hard. It's just, I think, the way society makes it all sound so difficult. But bringing it back again to what is it that I want? I think that is so important. And I've never given myself the time and space to actually work it out. And that's where the rich life comes into it. It's like, yes, you can have all this abundance, all this money, but what about the other side? What brings you joy? And what is it that you want outside of your relationship, outside of your family dynamics? So that's where I want this conversation to steer because I think there are a lot of women out there who haven't really sat down and really thought about it. So how is it that you can help people understand the bigger picture?
So we often default when we think about money to it's math, it's logic, it's about maximizing it. And there is like a million ways to make money. There's a million ways to grow money. And just the sheer fact of that makes it very overwhelming. You're like, where do I begin? What's the right thing to do? And we're very much encouraged to look to external social norms, metrics of success, which are often focused on numbers and tangible acquisition. I don't think I had any conversations in my family or in my schooling around actually being able to think about what kind of work do I want to be doing and why is that important to me? What's the purpose of it? Why does it light me up? What difference will it make? Where do you want to live? How do you want to be spending your days? What's that environment look like? How do you want to be spending your time? What are the relationships that you want to have in your life? All these kind of things that when you actually take the time to ask yourself those questions, and it does take a little, actually, I think it takes a lot of courage to declare what we want, particularly if we've headed down a path that may not be in coherence with that, because that feels a little bit scary. We might be letting others down.
Yep.
There's the sunk cost fallacy, like, I've invested so much time in this, I couldn't possibly change tact. It takes a lot of courage to articulate it. But if we can do that, it then creates this framework for decision making. And we can slowly start aligning our behavior, how we spend our time, how we make money, how we spend and grow money, to actually building something that's meaningful. And if we've spent the time to get clear around the thing that we really desire, that we really want to call in, and that how we really want to live, that is such a motivating, anchoring foundation that will keep us on the pathway as we start building it, and give us the momentum and give us the time to compound all those efforts and actually get where we want to go. A lot of the times, and this is just a sort of side note, but often we don't do well with our money is because we're kind of flying blind, and we'll set ourselves up, moving down a certain pathway, but then we'll get distracted. And so we'll go over here and start something else. And we're always starting and beginning, but never seeing things through. And, one of the biggest things about wealth and money is it takes time to build it, to accumulate it. And it often takes consistent effort. Like if you think about investing, for example, you're not going to reach your goal in 12 months or probably even 3. But if you stick to it consistently for 10, 12, 30 longer years, that's where the real magic happens and the momentum builds. But you need to give it time for that to come to fruition. Little bit of a side tangent, but I hope that answers your question as to why it's so valuable to actually ask these questions, because not only will you get what you want, but you will have the conviction to commit to something along the way that will give you the foundations and the fertile ground for success as well.
Yeah. See, that really speaks to me, and it makes so much sense, because it's like anything. You need a plan. I think plans are a great thing. I know plans can change.
Yeah.
But I don't think I've ever had a proper plan. I think I've always just kept on going from one plan to another, or it just, through life, through different circumstances, it just keeps changing. And I think what it comes down to also is asking yourself, what is enough? How much is enough for you? I don't think you can answer that question unless you have this plan. Would you agree? Because what is enough, really? I don't know. And when you asked me that question, I found it really, really hard to answer. It's like it
is really hard.
I just, even to this day, I don't know if I could answer that question. It's really hard to know. What is enough for you? What is going to really make you feel happy, to think, this is making me feel content, and I think this is enough. I don't have to continuously keep striving for more and more, which, what is more? Is that going to bring you happiness? Sometimes it's the richest people in life are usually the most miserable people in life. And I know it's a bit of a cliche, but you hear it time and time again. More money sometimes means more problems. And I think we all strive for more. But what is more?
And it's about two things there. So that, what is enough? It doesn't preclude you from then going for more or having more. It just helps you really create a framework for what's the baseline that I'm trying to get to? What are the values, the standards that I want to kind of set? And I want to give myself a chance of actually obtaining and achieving. The second part is that the more often will come at the cost of other components of your rich life. Okay, yes, you can earn more money, but what's it going to take? And what are you going to have to give up to make that happen?
Yeah.
Will it be your health because of the hours that you'll be investing in it? Will it be the relationships and that social component of your life because you're really focused and dedicated. And in order to achieve that, and we're talking about money, but you could apply this to many things, to achieve that level of income or wealth, that means you don't have time to take the coffee or the holiday or whatever that social building, to be home for bedtimes or to attend school sport. And I think that we don't spend enough time really weighing up the trade-offs that we need to make in order to have one or the other. I love this writer, Sahil Bloom. He wrote a book called The 5 Types of Wealth. And I think I love him because we talk about the same thing. So I feel like a comrade with him. I'm like, yes, Sahil. But he talks about, often we want something that someone else has. And we sort of see it in 2D. We just see the success, or we see the home, or we see the holiday. But we don't see it in the 3 dimension, which is what does it take to get there? And am I willing to take on all that person's life? Or actually, if I realize that's what it took or how my life would like to look like that. And I do it myself. I've been in a season in recent years of parenting, and based on the kind of parent that I want to be, that's meant that my career has absolutely had less of me. I've been able to dedicate a lot less time to it. And sometimes I will see, people in my field, and they'll be launching their book that they had time to write, and they've been building the team and doing all these different road shows and traveling. And I'm like, oh, God dang, I'm definitely jealous. I wish I had that.
Of course.
But their life is very different to mine. They don't have family or a partner. It's come at the cost of health sometimes. And I'm not saying that success always costs you all these things, but in this example, if I look at their whole life, would I trade where I am and what I'm doing to get where I want to go quicker? Or am I actually happy to go a bit slower if it means the rest of my life can have all the things that I really value as well? And it's like, absolutely, you know what? I can go slower.
Yeah.
It's,
Yeah.
And again, there's no right or wrong. It's just about being really deliberate and anchoring yourself in that vision. And the beauty of doing that is it actually helps drown that noise, drown that envy, eliminate the distractions that we all have and experience, because you're just like, power to you. Good on you. I'm so glad that's happening for you, because you're anchored in your own vision for life, your own plans, your own agenda. And that is what brings you a peace. It's a sense of peace.
Yeah.
And eliminates that comparison.
It's true. So true. And it makes me really mad with myself when I start to compare myself or have that envy. But, it is what it is. We're all on a different path as well. But I think obviously being aware of it makes you feel better about it as well.
And I just thought of something I didn't say about the enough equation. I remember when first doing this for myself, deciding like, what were the really big priorities? And of these priorities, which ones were essential to my happiness? And I as you know, I do it with clients as well. We do this exercise where you win the lottery. How much is the money? What do you do with it? How do you spend your life, your time, blah, blah, blah. And it slowly distills you down to actually starting to paint a bit of a picture of what does a rich life look like.
Yeah.
And I remember when I did it for myself, the things that I had listed as, being really, really important to me and being essential to my happiness, I had like 8 out of 10 of them already. And in that moment, it occurred to me, well, like, okay, if you have 8 out of the 10 things that you say would genuinely make you a happy person,
that's pretty good.
Maybe you could be like happy now.
Yeah, yes.
Be content where you are. Doesn't mean that you don't strive or aspire to more, but it just doesn't mean that you're delaying your ability to be happy, be proud, be content, enjoy where you are, because if there's this never-ending, always shifting goal of aspiration. And it really changed my experience of life. And it was a bit of a shock to me because I'd actually never met anyone that was happy where they are right now. And I was like, why is that?
Yeah.
But again, I think it's these, the society that we live in, we measure on tangible metrics. We're always told we need more to be worthy, to be enough. And it's not saying that it's bad to aspire for wealth, any of those things. But it's really being clear with yourself around what are you willing to do to get there? What beyond money makes you feel rich? And how might you have a really healthy balance of all of those things?
Yeah. Yeah. I completely agree with you. And I think as a midlife woman, when we've gone through so much being there for everyone else and fitting into everyone else's plan, what I've really enjoyed about working with you is what's mine now? Giving myself that permission to actually say, what do you want? And I found that really hard because I have always been part of a family. I've been part of a relationship. But this is what I want to delve into a little bit more with you, Betsy, is you must work with other midlife women who get to this point in life and think, okay, I want to start educating myself, doing things more for myself. How can we better do that? Because I think it's very hard when you've been in a group situation where you've been part of all of this and all of a sudden maybe you want to start doing things for yourself, but you feel guilty or you don't know how and you think, can I be bothered? So I'll just keep going the way I've always kept going. But I think we need to empower ourselves now because there's no reason why we can't do this.
Yes, particularly around finance, I think we need to acknowledge why on the finance front in particular, we don't always feel confident. We don't feel like it's for us. It doesn't feel like something that we should be in charge of. And I shared a timeline for International Women's Day around women's economic and financial empowerment just over the last, let's say, what are we now, 2026? So yeah, it'd be around the last 50 years. So my mother was born in 1953. And when she was leaving high school, the marriage bar was lifted. So prior to that, if a woman was married and worked in the public office for the Australian government, she had to leave her job.
Insane.
Isn't that
Yeah.
wow? So you are immediately economically disempowered and financially disempowered through marriage.
Yes.
When my mum was having, and at that same time, maybe it was prior to that. I'm getting my dates wrong. Sorry, this is bad timeline. But nevertheless, at the same time, a woman, when she was coming through university, a woman was able to own her own property and borrow money without a male guarantor for the first time. So your access to finance was subject to someone else's permission, timeline, approval. When she became a mum for the first time, that was when the Sex Discrimination Act came in around 1984, which prevented banks and organizations for discriminating against people, particularly women, for being married, being pregnant, being female, like all these different things. This is in living memory.
Yeah.
And so it's no wonder that for women in particular, the world of work and finance has felt like this place that wasn't really built for us, that we don't really belong there. I mean, even just you look at the language of finance, it's very focused on metrics. It's very much focused on like things like, if the share market is increasing in value because, companies are doing well and making more money, it's called a bull market. If the share market is decreasing in value because people are feeling scared, companies are struggling, the value and what people are willing to pay for them is going down, it's called a bear market, like bull and bear. Can we get more masculine?
Yeah.
When we look at traditional financial advice, it came from the industry of stockbroking, buying and selling shares to make profits. It didn't come from a place of how do we financially empower and educate people and guide them to align their money with their vision for their life, which is what it's really about. So I think first just acknowledging that we have all these personal and intergenerational hang-ups and limitations around money. And I think just having that awareness can go, okay, this is why it doesn't feel good for me. but it's no longer something that I need to carry because absolutely the world of finance is for you. Absolutely, you have all the smarts within you to become financially literate, financially capable, and financially fulfilled. It really doesn't take a genius. It's just it suits the financial services industry for you to think so because then you keep coming to them and paying them for
Yeah.
advice,
Fair enough.
which is valuable. But, I think it's important that if you ever are working with a financial professional, that you have an experience where you are being educated and your capabilities are being built at the same time as you're getting that guidance and advice because you want to be a co-creator of your life
Yeah.
and in particular your finances. So I think acknowledging that is the first place to start. The second thing is, and you might need to work with someone to unpack these insights, but really going, what do I want? And if you can look at it through those 5 lenses of, financial, health, social, time, mental well-being, that can be a really great way to break it down a little bit. When you have that, then you can go, well, where am I now? In relation to what I want, what's the gap? What's the delta? And then what do I need to do around earning money, how I'm spending and organizing my money, how I'm growing my money to bring that reality into place. And there'll be things beyond money, of course. There'll be like, what am I doing with my fitness? What am I doing with my mental well-being? But I'm not such an expert on those areas, so I'll have to send you to someone else for that. But on the finances, it really grounds you with your options because you've got somewhere to start, you know where you want to go. It's then kind of just paint by numbers on the money front. It really makes it obvious. It makes the pathway apparent. And we can build out a plan to get you there. We might need to pull some different levers. We might need to, adjust the timeline. We might need to adjust income. We might need to adjust priorities, but you've got something to work with, and that feels really empowering.
So, midlife women that you're working with, what would you say in this stage of life? Do you think that is there a shift happening with women? Is there a little bit of a light bulb moment that they're starting to really think about it? What have you experienced with working with women like myself?
Absolutely. Midlife is one of those transitions that kind of where life recalibrates. And that's usually a catalyst for anyone that I'm working with is that there's some sort of change. It could be a change in career. It could be a change in family and partnership, or even just, as we've talked about, the rhythm of family with kids moving out of home and becoming more independent. There could be a change in priorities of being like, I've always as you say, put family ahead, but actually I want to go and express myself this way now and I want to do that. So I think midlife is a really big time for reevaluating, and whether that is intrinsically driven or extrinsically driven, whether it's something inside you that says things need to change or there's an urgency around time or a change in interest, or it's, something around you changes, career, family, partnership. And that's a beautiful time because you're stepping into a new season.
Yeah.
And you're stepping into a new chapter. And this is when you can go, okay, well, what next? What now? What does it look like for me? And then start implementing them and building again. And I think this is, something I do want everyone to recognize, and I think midlife women will know this, absolutely. But life is seasonal. We have periods where, I think about my 20s, I was very selfish, as I should be in my 20s. I was very focused on myself and my career and my aspirations. My 30s have been a lot more around partnership and parenting, and I'm there and my career is there, but the demands and the balance and the makeup of my life has different components and different priorities. And we should expect that. And so I think sometimes we see change as a loss, but actually it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity to start again, to redirect, to build, and to try something different for ourselves.
Exactly. Little iterations in life. And I think that's what's so exciting. And I just want to become personally more empowered with having that knowledge and knowing that I can look after it. I can look after my money and I don't need to rely on others. And I think for me, for a long time, I've just had that insecurity around it. And this is what I want a lot of women to understand, that you don't have to feel that way. You don't have to look at it as it's just too hard, or I'm just
too late. It's
too
not
late. Exactly. Never too late.
Mm.
Or better still, with the rate of the grey divorce, there are still so many women staying in unhappy relationships because they feel that they can't move. They can't get out of this relationship. They're bound to it because, and the rate of homelessness in midlife women is huge. So, let's start by learning. Let's start by really looking at the big picture of what do you want. Give yourself the permission to really understand it. And, there are tools out there. You might not be able to afford a financial coach, but there are lots of tools out there that can help you. And yeah, I want to see more women feel empowered about that, and also really looking at what is a rich life? What does it mean to me? Because it's not just about the money. And yeah, like I said before, I really enjoyed working with you. It's opened my mind to a lot more of what I can see is possible. And it gives me that excitement of, you know what, I can do this myself. I don't have to rely on him. It actually can be something that I can achieve for me. And I've never, ever looked at it that way. So what advice, Betsy, would you give to someone who's listening to this right now and thinking, you know what? Yes, I want to start looking at my financial life, at my rich life, but I really don't know how to start. What is one simple step that they could take to possibly open the door to, looking at how they can improve their own situation?
One simple step. First, I
100
would actually.
steps.
Yeah. I know. I always. It's a bad habit of mine. But the first one would be, kind of doing a little bit of an audit around like how you're living life now, and just kind of in those 5 components and saying, what's going really great here? What do I want to keep doing? What do I want to elevate? What do I want to be different? And that's going to start helping you then to really crystallize what you want life to be and to look like. The second step would be actually look at your money. Sounds really obvious, but I can tell you from all my work and experiences that we don't look at our money much. Like actually look at it and take stock and go, okay, what have I got to work with here? What's the money coming in? Like how much actual money is coming in the door every week, every month, so on. Where does it go? How does it get allocated? How am I spending it? Have I, in recent times, am I spending in alignment with my values, or are there leaks that where money just goes? And I don't really mean for it to go, but it disappears. And that could be through spending or through just apathy of I auto renew my bills and I don't ever look for a better deal, or I'm spending on things that actually don't bring me a lot of joy. And that means that I don't get to spend on the things that do bring me joy. So having a look at that, looking at what do you actually have in your super fund? How's it invested? Where is it likely to be by the time I want to access it? What other things do I have in my little pool of assets? What debt do I have? Do I have a plan to pay those off? When will I pay those off? And actually just kind of get a handle on where we're going. And we often let feelings override fact all the time. We say, it feels like something I can't do. But yet you're a woman who's running a household and has a senior, position in her organization and manages to juggle, the parents' healthcare plan, but you think you can't handle money. Like,
it's crazy.
What?
I know.
Or we think the money situation is going to be so bad and that prospect is so terrifying that we just ignore it instead of actually going, what's actually happening here? And I had this with a client not long ago, and he was convinced that he'd blown it, that he needed to had to earn all this extra money and then take on all these risky investments to get where he wanted to go. And when we actually looked at his money and I did some projections for him based on him doing everything the same, I was like, you're going to have more money than you told me was enough. You're going to have more money than you said you needed.
Wow.
This feeling is not a fact. And so just really kind of going through those things. So if you could do those two things, and you might be able to do them on your own, you might need someone to help you with that, whether that's a professional, whether it's a savvy friend, but don't let fear stop you from gaining knowledge and taking action, because there's so many resources and people that can help you with that. And it's a bit like that saying like, oh, but what if I fail, or what if it doesn't work out? What if it does?
Yeah.
What if it does?
Yeah.
And don't you want to know?
Yes. Yes. So true. It's so true. Why we have this fear of the facts is insane. And I'm guilty of that. It's like, I don't want to know. I don't really want to sit down and, really have it stare at me back in the face. But if you do that, then you know where you're at, and then you can make the plan. And
yes,
I'm all for that now, because I can see.
Yay.
No more hiding my head, burying my head in the sand. It's like, enough. Just empower yourself, get the facts, and say, what do I want?
Yeah.
And
take the action.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, let's do this now. And it doesn't matter how old you are. It's like you said, it's never too late. You can start today. You can make a difference. So, Betsy, thank you so much. I've had a really lovely time speaking to you about this. I'm going to put a link in my show notes to your website if anyone would like to reach out to you and discuss how you could better help them. Or you've got a great Instagram handle. I really love the way you engage with your viewers as well. It's just, you make money look good and fun.
Oh, that's good. Thank you, Michelle.
My pleasure. But I like to end all my episodes with an inspirational quote. Do you have one that you'd like to share with us?
The first one that's coming to mind to me today is, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And it's one that I don't know who said it to me. I feel like someone told me it at school, actually, and it's just been proved to me time and time again. And I think it's that, laying the ground right, controlling what you can control around achieving those goals that you have for yourself, but then also just getting a little bit, being able to spot what the opportunities are and take them. And that comes through knowing what the life is that you're trying to build, doing what you can do to make it happen, and being able to spot those opportunities. And that's the lucky that we see other people having. It's that luck is when preparation meets opportunity. So that's the one that I'm going to leave people with. I hope it lands and resonates, but it's the one in my mind today, and that I've been reminding myself in my own life is, controllables, lay the groundwork, look for the opportunities, and it's going to all work out.
Yeah. So here's to a rich life.
Oh, I hope everyone has a rich life, because I just want that for you. I really want that for women in particular, to feel like their life is theirs, that it is rich and it is purposeful, and I want nothing less, actually, for them or me.
Absolutely. Well, thank you, Betsy. It's been wonderful as always.
Thank you so much.
Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Your Second Act. If you enjoyed this episode, I'd love it if you could rate and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Your feedback means the world to me.